Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to the BlackUSA.News morning show. My name's Donnie Glover. Today we're speaking with Norah Salamone. Good morning, Norah. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Donnie. I'm
Very
good.
well.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Donnie invited me onto the show to talk a little bit about some of the things we got going on at Sandtown-Winchester Achievement Academy, which is a school in this West Baltimore community in Sandtown, located on Gold Street. I am the community school coordinator. Okay. Time out. Okay. Go ahead.
You live in Sandtown.
I do.
How you live in Sandtown?
How do I live in Sandtown?
Yeah.
I moved
Sandtown
to.
only 98% black.
How did I get here? So, I moved
Well, you
here
ain't gotta
about.
go. You don't have to go. Were you born in Sandtown?
No, I was not born in Sandtown. I
Oh,
moved here about 5 years ago, and I'm lucky to live here. I love Sandtown. The community here, you can't beat it. Really, I've never experienced community like this in my life.
I bet you haven't.
I love my neighbors. Donnie, one of my awesome neighbors, right down the block.
I bet you haven't.
No, really, for real though.
For real?
I love living in Sandtown. It's true. We've got our fair share of obstacles, but I'm
I
lucky
love
to
it
be
most
here.
of the time.
So yes, I live in Sandtown, and I get to work in Sandtown with.
You get a lot of points. Let me tell you, there's some black people wouldn't live in Sandtown. I'm trying. So see this guy right here, Michael Randolph. He used to live in Sandtown, and you see where he is at now.
Oh, he's in Tampa, huh?
But he can't stay away from Sandtown. He tunes in every morning.
See, there you go. You can't get enough.
And Michael
Gotta love
Randolph.
Sandtown.
Michael Randolph was an advocate back in the early 90s. I'm talking about 92. That's when I met him.
Okay, Michael.
91. He taught me. He's one of the people who taught me community organizing.
Awesome.
That was the time when we had the Sandtown-Winchester Community Center up on Mount Street, 1114 North Mount Street.
Okay, I've heard a little about that. Michael, why'd you leave us?
Well, that's interesting. And if I can speak on his behalf, one of the things, considering all of the resources that former Mayor Kurt Schmoke and also the Enterprise Foundation put in Sandtown. Sandtown became the jewel of neighborhood transformation. No disrespect to Harlem Park, which is one of the first communities to be to go through neighborhood rehabilitation. And I'm thinking this was the 70s or so, but Harlem Park was one of the first communities to go through community transformation. But Sandtown didn't do bad either. And so people would come here from all over the country, all over the world. We had visitors come from everywhere. France, Russia. It was nothing to see a group from anywhere. Africa.
Wow.
54. So one group that came here was from Florida. And the name of the community is Overtown.
Okay.
And Overtown is similar to Sandtown. Black demographics, they have their challenges, they have their history. And so I think he pretty much, and then he just put that he got married. But I'm pretty sure he fell in love down there in Overton. And it allowed him to do a lot of his community work. Now, Michael, if I'm wrong at any juncture, you tell me I was wrong, but we'll leave it at that. So, a lot of history here in Sandtown.
Absolutely.
Do you know why they call it Sandtown?
Something about like sand falling from. I don't know. It was something to do with sand, trails of sand from carriages. I don't know. I can't remember. Someone told me one time.
It's a sort of mill, to my understanding.
Yes, that's what it was.
Around Monroe Street.
Okay.
And long story short, when people would come through here, they end up with dust on their car. And I'm sure the man's wife would ask him, where you been at? And he would say, I was in Sandtown. So here's another comment from Mr. Michael Randolph. His best practices approach, it was based on community comprehensive approach to transformation. All right, Mike, with these big fancy words. All right. So
okay, Mike.
You're in Sandtown. You're married. You live in a famous block too. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Our block is awesome.
One of the best blocks in Sandtown.
Oh,
and so you're now,
I think so too. I think our block is beautiful.
And so now you're you're teaching in the former George Kelson. So let me ask you this: do you know who George Kelson was?
He was, he was like a very prolific black educator. I believe he was
director.
He was a film director, really.
Funeral
director.
It was a famous funeral home on Calhoun Street in the 1300 block called George Kelson Funeral Home.
Okay.
And after he had it, he was succeeded by Mr. Vernon Bailey, very dear friend of my dad's. And so Mr. Kelson employed a lot of people. And you may not know this, the Sandtown was a sort of hub for black funeral directors.
Okay. I did not know that.
At the 909 down on Calhoun Street, just off of Lafayette, or they were up at the old Clico Club, now called the Clico Club, the Odyssey Lounge. So, folks, if you're just joining us,
I'll come in a minute. Yeah, I'm just on a call. 1 second. Oop. I am so sorry about that. Being in the school building, get a lot of distractions. I apologize, Donnie.
It's all good. So George Kelson was a famous funeral director, and he hired people. That's what he was most known for, that business. And so they named that school after him. And so let me just say, as another.
He moved from Pressman to Calhoun.
And that lady there is Kenny Harris's mom, the late councilman we had here. Hello, Miss.
Awesome.
So when they took the name, this is what I was getting to. When they took the name off of that school and they turned it into the Sandtown-Winchester Academy.
Well, before that, it was William Pender Hughes. So it went from Kelson to William Pender Hughes, then to Sandtown-Winchester.
And of course, William Pender Hughes, the initial building is right across the street from me, 1200 North Freeman.
Exactly. Yeah.
When these very brilliant people on the school board start taking down our historic names and renaming our schools, it's almost like erasing a bit of history.
Right. That's people's identity. You know, a lot of families, a lot of our kids, their parents went to Kelson, and they, you know, they're like, I was here when it was Kelson. You know, I don't know why they had to, you know, go ahead and change the name multiple times before my child got here.
Not only that, and never consult the community. See, this is the part.
And they keep doing it.
And to my knowledge, a lot of these people on the school board are black. So it's not like we say, oh, the white man don't understand this, because you know, that's easy to do. It's easy to point the finger at somebody else. But these are black people who don't know about the history, because if they did, they wouldn't do stupid things.
Well, a lot of them aren't, you know, aren't living in the city.
That's even more disrespectful. Yeah. That's like me coming in your house and saying, you need to paint your bedroom orange and purple. This ain't your house.
Right.
I don't come in your house and tell you what to do.
And it just confuses things too. It just
it doesn't help.
It doesn't help anything. I'm 100% with you on that.
And especially if they've never walked the streets of this community.
Most of them have not.
So it's very disrespectful.
Yep.
And to me, it reminds me of a lot of our foreign policy as a nation. When I was in the Middle East, we go into Jordan. You can't tell them people how to live.
Right.
You never even been there. You go
Right.
into India, you gonna tell the people in India what to do. Y'all need more cows. Well, some of them don't eat cows; they revere cows. It's just a cultural respect. I won't even say sensitivity. It's respect. We
Right.
just don't have it.
Right. Yep. Yep. We just see it time and time again, and especially in neighborhoods like this, they're constantly changing the names. They just did that to Mosher, right? Just got changed to Billie Holiday. Yeah, it just keeps happening without any consult from the community.
So tell us about how did you get to Sandtown-Winchester Academy? What is your role?
So yeah, so I have actually, I mean, I love my role here at the school. I'm a community school coordinator. So a lot of Baltimore City schools have switched to the community school model, which like works, which helps this like helps the families of the students at the school by having more like local partnerships like that provide programs like tutoring and after school programs and mentoring, and then if you're a community school, you have someone hired like me, a community school coordinator, who also helps with barrier removal for families, things like food access or housing or helping families with employment. So basically, I more so work with the parents and the families to help them, because there's so many obstacles that families here face to getting their student to school, and every day a lot of our families are working multiple jobs, so they need extended school day, they need their student in after school enrichments. So I work with our after school partners to so our students can be here till 5:30 in the evening, and then yeah, just providing additional family supports like a food pantry. We have a clothes closet, so I provide uniforms for students, and I get all of these things that I'm able to provide from different partnerships that I work with in the community, and in Baltimore at large. So that's like the basis of my job. And then, so I work for Elevate Baltimore. And so most of the community school coordinators in Baltimore City are hired from other organizations. So Elevate Baltimore is my lead agency. And Elevate Baltimore has community school coordinators at 10 different schools in Baltimore. And Sandtown is one of the neighborhoods that they are heavily invested in. So Elevate Baltimore. Yeah.
Tell us about Elevate Baltimore. Who are they? When
So
I hear Elevate Baltimore, let me just tell you, the first thing I think of when I hear that term is Wes Moore. That's his favorite line, Elevate. I think he signs his emails like that. I don't know if you know Wes Moore.
okay, no, I know who Wes Moore is, but I don't know him personally. But I did not know that about him.
That's his mantra.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
maybe that's where it came from. Our executive director does know Wes Moore. I don't know. I mean, they are so.
Synergy in
I don't know. So Elevate Baltimore was started about, I think they've been in the community for about, I want to say 10 to 15 years. They started out, they had been running out of 5 years ago. They were running out of the Kids Safe Zone in Sandtown, which they turned into the Harambe Center.
Where is that?
And they do that's on Cary Street. That's down Cary and Cumberland. But now that operation has shut down. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, that was Kids Safe Zone, and then it became the Harambe Center. And they also have a community school coordinator in Baltimore, which is Youth Opportunities Baltimore, which is the high school program on Lafayette. And then also they have a community school coordinator at New Song Academy. And at all these schools, they provide after-school programming and different family supports.
What is New Song Academy for those who don't know, and what's happening there? I mean, they are right there in the street from you.
Right, they're pretty much right across the street. They're just down the block.
You mentioned Penderhughes earlier. So let me just lay out for those who don't know. There was a time when we had 3 elementary schools here in Sandtown. Gilmore got a new library just after Freddie Gray, and then they ended up closing it. Penderhughes, which used to be 1200 North Fremont, they closed that maybe 12 years ago. Catherine Pugh, in her infinite wisdom, opted to make it a temporary homeless shelter. Thank you so very much. We don't know what we would have done without it. And then, of course, the former George Kelson. So there was a time we had 3 elementary schools. Now we're down to 1, but there's always been New Song over here. And now my understanding is that New Song is expanding to Gilmore.
Yep.
So honestly, on behalf of the community, we don't like these musical chairs. You put one foot in, it's like the hokey pokey.
Yep.
Because here's the driving point. When you close a school, you kill a community.
Absolutely.
When you close a school, there are no drugs sold on this corner, Winchester and Carlton. Going back to when it was a school. We didn't tolerate it then. We don't tolerate it now. So you will not see a dope line on Carlton and Winchester. When they start closing schools, you kill a community, you erase the history. But then, and they'll say, and I'm not going to call names, but they'll say, well, there are not enough children in Sandtown.
That's what they always say.
We're sick of the script. There's no law. There's no law that says you have to have a certain amount of students.
And I mean, now look at us. Oh, go ahead.
One last point. This Penderhughes building, then they get ready to sell it and all of that. The lights, the heat, the air is on and has been on for 12 years. Enough so that they can put homeless people in there. So when they talk about we need more money, more speed cameras, look at what you're wasting. Look at the that's an example. You know how Fox Baltimore, well, this is just one incident, but it's a horrible incident in a neighborhood riddled with drugs, riddled with lack of opportunity. These Black people on the school board quite often have no freaking clue. I'll shut up.
No, I hear you. And I mean, you know, now since Gilmore closed and we all moved into to what was Kelson and then William Penderhughes, and now it's Sandtown-Winchester Achievement Academy, our building is packed to the gills. Like we are constantly getting students trying to transfer in. All our classrooms are packed. We have a kindergarten class that has, you know, over 30 students, and these kids have never been in school before, and a teacher is running a classroom with over 30 students. And there's no spaces available in the school.
Michael Johnson, come on in here, man. I know you got time. Come on, keep going. Sorry, Norah. I just get so, because, you know, we got Black people to say, oh, I ain't going to Sandtown. I'm not going to Sandtown. And one of the reasons I admire you so much is because you're doing what a lot of Black people ought to be doing. And there have been plenty of Black people who have done what you're doing, but that was then. Right now, we got a skeleton staff. And so we welcome you. We welcome you as family. We appreciate you as family. What happened to your chickens?
Thank you, Donnie. I appreciate it. The chickens. So we have like a community chicken coop at the community
No,
garden in
you have
Sandtown.
a multi-million
Yeah.
dollar garden.
So I have the privilege of working with the greatest garden in Baltimore City. I think it was started over 20 years ago, which is a huge big deal for a garden,
What
a
was her name?
community managed garden to last over 20 years. Like that never happens.
What was her name?
Miss Justine Bonner.
Miss Bonner.
She was from,
Give me a look
she
like
lived
this.
on the 900 block of Carrollton.
That's how she used to look at me.
Yeah, she did have that look. Yeah. She was a retired school principal.
Yes, she was.
And she ran an amazing space. She created a huge like beautification garden, vegetable plots, like an award-winning garden. Like we would win the Master Gardener Award every year. And unfortunately, Miss Justine Bonner passed away about 4 years ago. She had gotten cancer, and it was a huge loss to the community. She didn't just manage the community garden, she created green spaces all around the area. She would see a space that was plagued by illegal dumping where people
interruption. Daviante Edwards, please report to the main office. Daviante Edwards.
So she would find a space where in the area that was plagued by illegal dumping and turn it into something beautiful, which deters people from dumping and brings in community support. So neighbors would assist in keeping that space clean. It brought more attention to the area, and it brought people more pride in the neighborhood. So since her passing, myself and my husband have poured a lot into the garden to keep it going. And one of the things we started last year was we got a chicken coop. And then, hello.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. So the chicken coop has been a big hit with the community, and like with the children. Like we're teaching kids about animal husbandry and about raising chickens and caring for them and getting eggs and everything. And you really want me to go into what happened, Donnie?
Yeah, young man killed your chickens. Welcome to the show, Michael Johnson.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Donnie. Hello, Nora. How are you doing?
Hello. Great. How are you?
And what happened to the chickens?
Okay. So yeah, about, I want to say a month and a half ago, I was coming home from lunch, and my neighbors called me down the alley and to where the chicken coop is. And someone had smashed through the side of the chicken coop and smashed 5 of our chickens to death with bricks and smashed everything in the chicken coop. Like, it was really a scene. I was pretty upset because those are my babies, and those were, an important part of the community. All the neighborhood kids loved them, and it was just, it brought so much joy to everybody.
Did we find out who did it?
So yes, we did.
Did this person get some help?
So he really needs help. I've been in touch with folks from his school. It's a 14-year-old boy who hadn't attended school at all. This was over a month into the school year, and I talked to the school social worker there. He hadn't attended a single day of school. So he's just been, roaming around, spending his school days doing who knows what. And he had never really received any sort of supports from the school. So I got to touch base with them again to see if he started attending, to see if they were trying to get him linked up with the school psychologist to get, some therapy. But pretty terrible.
Is there any repercussions? Did the family have to pay anything? There was nothing done. Did you guys pursue anything?
So we were pursuing things with the detective, and we had 2 neighbors who had seen him, who did like a photo lineup, and the one identified him, the other one didn't. So I don't think it was enough to go on for them to press charges. And being that he's a minor, there's like not much that really would happen to him anyway. But it would technically be animal abuse and destruction of property.
Yeah, I don't think I was looking for anything to put him in that harm. I just wanted to make sure he got some
He
help.
got some help. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to link up with talk more with the people at his school. It's for him to get some, definitely needs to talk to somebody. Definitely needs I don't know, because that could turn into something a lot bigger. That's a big anger issue there.
Wow, that's sad to know. I mean, I'm a big animal lover, and
It was
even
devastating.
even though I would have ate the chickens once they got to a point, but up
Right.
to eating them, I love them, But
Right.
yeah, to have that happen, and I think to Donnie's point of contention of how things just move in our communities without really us being involved in things. I mean, the school changing, the name changing, even principal changing, interviewing of principals doesn't happen.
Yep.
My daughter is a principal in a public school system, and I know her comments to me at times can be interesting about the way that things are done. And as Donnie was saying, and as you said, you have a school board who primarily are a bunch of kids, no disrespect to your age, but are a bunch of children, and most of them are connected to Johns Hopkins. That's how they come through. If you follow their bio.
Yep.
But your role, and I know the role of these community outreach folks that they put in the schools are very, very important in our schools. And so how long have you been at that school?
I've been here since 2019. So I started, and that was the first year this school was merged. So I guess I'm in my third year now.
And you got 30 children in a kindergarten class.
Yep. Over 30. I think it's over. I think we're at like 35.
Has the parents made any complaints about the fact you got 30 to 35 kids?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, parents are not happy with it. Especially since a lot of the kindergarten kids didn't go to pre-K last year because of the pandemic.
I mean, they heard it in this large room.
Never been to school. Yeah.
Whew.
So yeah, I mean, it's really hard for any instruction to happen. This year has been definitely challenging, even with first graders who in kindergarten they were doing the year virtual, right? So it's their first time being socialize, like being around so many other students and just dealing with all the interpersonal things that come with being in school. So,
what's the total population at that school?
We have about 420 students.
Okay.
And so, and which is pretty much at our max here.
And how many kindergarten classes do you have?
So we only have one kindergarten class. So
and that's the one that's over 30. That's because the principal hasn't. Did the principal not? Well, I can't ask you that, but it sounds like in some respect,
it's a budgeting thing.
The budgeting thing, the principal didn't put in for another kindergarten teacher. Okay.
And more keep coming in. We keep getting more enrollments like every week.
But the money is still coming in per child. If you're still paying $16,000 to $18,000 per child, go ahead, Norah.
So the amount of funding that we get for the year is determined by October 1st.
Yes,
so
I know.
Once we enroll after that, we're not getting the funding per student for those students.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because you can't put a child in the building without funding. They go hand in hand. So now if that child is coming from another school, then that school needs to send that money over. But you can't put a child into a school without funding. So if the folks that you're working with are not aware with that, then they need to do their work a little better, because you cannot put a child in the public school system unless funding follows them.
See, I didn't realize that the transfer of funding happened when they moved from, because they're always it's always like a scramble to make sure that our numbers are up high enough by October 1st.
October 1st. Right.
Yeah.
But then there's an accounting thing, because we know that July suggests that this is what you're going to have. October, you'd say what you do have, and anything that follows after October, that's addition. That money either got to be transferred in from another school, or they have to request because of the bodies, because the state, the feds, and everyone is still paying per child. Per child is still being paid, whether they in your building or they in someone else's building. The problem is, it sounds like, is that there's an accounting issue that needs to be corrected.
I'd believe that. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I guess I don't know
It's
all
all
the
good.
nuances into that.
Yeah.
But I should know more about that.
So tell us more about your student and parent engagement.
Okay, so student and parent engagement. I try and have, family workshops and we're starting a PTO. So I meet every Thursday with families outside of the school building. We meet and we have picnic tables in the field area. So at drop off time, because now we have limited access for parents into the building. So that's a time for me to share resources, things like right now I'm working on Thanksgiving baskets. So I work with our partners to see, how many Thanksgiving baskets I can pull from different organizations and set families up that are in need with a turkey and a box of fixins and stuff like that. And then I'll also get stuff from the Maryland Food Bank that I will supplement those with. And then also,
let me catch you, Norah.
Yeah.
The young men need interview clothes.
Yes. So this is something we're starting. We wanted to this year do professional dress days for our 7th and 8th grade students. So we want to have every Monday to, teach some life skills and teach them how to dress up, how to tie a tie, how to, take care of professional attire, just different life skills. And then also with that, we're trying to get some more, public speaking, working on public speaking and, different things that will help them in the real world once they're, out in high school and beyond. So we are looking for donations for professional dress clothing in either adult or junior sizes. So we have our 7th and 8th graders are a whole wide range of sizes, but, button down shirts for males or females, suit jackets, ties, bow ties, dress shoes or flats, dress skirts, really anything because we want to be able to provide anyone who's unable to purchase an outfit themselves with an outfit that they can use for these professional dress days.
So Norah, how will you collect those donations?
So can I drop my email in the chat? Does that work?
Yes.
And then folks can just email me, and if you're in the city, I can come pick it up from you. Or if you were interested in dropping it off at the school, that works too. So we could just schedule drop-off times or pickup times. So I'm dropping my email in the chat right now. And Donnie, I do have a flyer I don't know if there's a place where I could attach a flyer somewhere on your page. You're muted, or at least I'm not hearing him.
You'd have to send that to me. There's a share button down the bottom, but I'm not the best at that.
Okay. All right, cool. I will send it to you. I'll email it to you. Okay, cool. All right. But any donations are appreciated. New or gently used professional dress clothing.
Any other questions for Mike?
No, I was taking down her email. So I'll share that information. And when you send Donnie the email, the flyer, Donnie will share with us. We'll get it out, I'm sure.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Donnie, I'll get you that flyer today.
So anything you want to add, Norah? How is parental participation?
It's a little bit of a challenge, and especially since, we are still kind of new to the merge thing as well. So, that disconnect that you spoke about before that, comes from families who were, invested in one school and then they closed that school and they merged. So, because our first year together was the year of the pandemic, was the year that we were shut down. So we were only open from, September until March. And then the whole next year was virtual. And then here we are, our second year in person back. So, sometimes it's hard to get parental support because they feel disconnected from the school community. But, you know, I think just showing up and the school, you know, give it like letting parents have a voice, and, you know, having parents volunteer as much as possible, you know, showing parents that we do like really care about their families, and that we really want their students to succeed. Showing that does help us build. I have a team of 3 or 4 parents who, you know, reach out to me regularly and like want to see how they can support the school. And we're gradually building that kind of power parent team. But it's a slow progression, but I think we'll get there.
Let me just
So you're K to 8?
K to 8, yep. Yeah, pre-K to 8.
And you have 400 from your K to 8.
420,
so
yep.
I wanted to get to that. Whose choice was it to make it an elementary / middle school?
I mean, I think that was a choice of city schools. They're like, Gilmore was just an elementary school, so those students would have been sent to Penderhughes for middle school. So there aren't as many middle schools in the area as elementary school, or there weren't, and then they combined Gilmore with us, so now it's.
Mike, you have any problems with elementary and middle school students?
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have huge problems with middle schools, period. I mean, I believe in K through 6. I believe in 7, 8, 9, and I believe in 10, 11, 12. It's a natural physical thing that happens with our children. When we accepted the middle school concept when it came in from California, when we accepted that, teenage pregnancy exploded in the city. And the numbers are there to back me up. I just believe that there's a natural physical, and we all have, you know, I know we're different generations, and at least 2 generations, is that, you know, there's a natural to go to 1 through 6 or K through 6. There's a natural to figure out, okay, we were on top of the grove when you left in the 6th grade. Now you're in the 7th, you're at the bottom again, and you want to be 8, 9. And then when you're at 9, you're at top. But then when you go to high school, as you and I went, Donnie, because I went to junior high school, and it was in junior high school that I learned my health issues. I learned the men. I learned how to be a man, a boy, an older boy, from showers, from all of that kind of stuff. So it was a natural progression. But I disagree all the time with K through 8 because I just don't believe that. I believe that children in elementary school should be elementary school children. And there is a difference. There's a difference in the way that your lockers are. There's a difference in the way that your art classes are. There's a difference in all of that. But we have a tendency to we want our children to grow up faster. And then when they grow up faster.
Well, Mike, I'm not sure what the thinking is behind it, because what I consistently hear from the politicians is, as it relates to Sandtown, there are not enough students. There are not enough students for this. There are not enough students for that.
That's what they always say.
Let me finish. Yeah. There's no law that says you have to have a certain amount of students. Number two, when I hear of this 21st Century Schools project and the money that has been put into it for new schools, where's our new school? How come the new schools are going everywhere where we not? What is up with that? And what type of black people on the school board don't want to see an investment in Sandtown? Because that's essentially what they're saying.
And when Sandtown's not alone in being not contributing to the 21st century, I mean, we can still put brand new schools in areas. But if your scores are your scores, if you're not teaching anybody, you just got a group of students in a brand new school with low thing. Arlington Elementary on Rogers Avenue used to be the blueprint of elementary schools in the entire city of Baltimore. They turned it to elementary middle. They became a 21st century school. They put millions of dollars in the building. Less than 2% of their students are passing the test. So it's not about the buildings. It's not about buildings, because you can go all in. Donnie, you travel, I'm quite sure as this young lady travels. We travel all over the country. I've passed buildings that look like they were built in the 20s. And they're graduating students, they're passing students. Some now, I'm not saying that we don't need air conditioning, I'm not saying we don't need heat, and we need real water. But I'm just saying that we have to be very, very careful when we say 21st century schools, if we're just talking about the buildings. If we're not putting the process, as Michael Haney's saying, if we're not putting the process of education in our schools, in 21st, have you noticed, and this is what I'm gonna close on, if you've noticed in a 21st century school, not one of the schools are built with solar paneling. You're a 21st century school, but you don't have solar paneling. Some of them are still using oil to heat 21st century schools. So you got to be a little careful when you have people who normally run baseball and football stadiums are in charge of the construction of 21st century schools to make a decision how your children are going to be educated in these buildings. I'd rather take that young lady there and put the money in her and put the money in the programs that she's got on to get the parents in the building than worrying about a brand new school.
So let me just say this. When you mentioned, you alluded to the Maryland Stadium Authority. They manage the money for schools.
All the construction.
They manage the money from the lottery. When the lottery first came on board in 1973, the number one promise was money for
schools.
Education. That's right.
Education. Absolutely.
When O'Malley got table gambling and slots passed, the number one priority was money for
education.
Now we got a brand new football stadium, a brand new baseball stadium, and those stadiums are open while City Hall is partially open, I guess. But my point is, we're not producing a quality product. Our young people can't write, can't count.
It's all about the curriculum. It's all about the curriculum. It's nothing else. Every child that enters that young lady's school from kindergarten is pretty close to being on the same level. But then we lose them in the third grade because we don't have the curriculum and we don't have the attention. If you got 33 to 35 children in the kindergarten class, I would give you odds if we were to do a census count on these people 15 years from now, that half of those children didn't do well. We can't.
So when I see, the crime reported on the news every night, and we know how challenged Sandtown is, a lot of good people here, but
absolutely,
we have our share of miscreants.
Absolutely.
We also have, on top of all of that, a whole new population of white addicts coming into a majority black community, dropping needles, buying dope.
Well, the great, on my paper that I wrote, the great equalizer of race relations were drugs. I mean, you begin with the oxycontin in the late 80s and the crack cocaine of the early 80s. All of that changed, whatever. And then, of course, the interaction and the new babies and all that's one thing. But if we stick with the schools as much as we can, until we put 21st century dollars into curriculums and outreach programs, you can build all of the beautiful schools. I look at the school they built on North. Help me out, Donnie. On North before you get to Madison. Brand new. They built it from the ground up. Dorothy Heights. Brand new, incredible building. Look at their scores. Look at their scores.
What are their scores?
Very low, very low. Forest Park, where you have built Forest Park twice in 20 years. You took $78 million to build a brand new high school to pull students from Northwestern over to Forest Park. And what did they lose? They lost the majority of their Hispanic students. Why? Because Hispanic students had built a community behind Northwestern. Now you want them to travel all the way to Forest Park, which they're not. So now they're dropping out. 21st century school is just some sort of political conversation. The real conversation is the curriculum and the outreach programs. If we can put the same money in the curriculum and the outreach program, but you can't do that when you have people who are commissioners, when you have and not only interest in black children, there's no interest in educating. I mean, the most segregated city back in the 40s was Baltimore City. The most segregated city in 2021 is Baltimore City. The only thing that's not segregated is your teachers, because we have more teachers that don't look like us that are coming from Maine and Massachusetts, no disrespect, Maine, Massachusetts, or Vermont, because they come in, they get a free master's degree program at Johns Hopkins University. They got a 3-year obligation. As soon as they get their master's degree, they're gone. They're gone back to where they are. And the cycle starts all over again, because the idiots who are on the commissioners down at the school board is not linking in with Coppin, not linking in with Towson, not linking in with
linking in with them. It's mutual.
Well, I mean, you can't keep. I mean, Donnie, you know that as a, but you know that as an H. But you know that as an H. You know that as an HBCU. A lot of
advocacy for our HBCUs. What are our HBCUs doing in Baltimore City?
Sometimes you gotta ask, though, Donnie. Sometimes you gotta ask. Come on, let's.
I think quite often we have people who are stuck in academia and they're away from the real world.
Well, either that or they end up on a radio show.
Let me give you this, Michael. You have 9 black college presidents between Baltimore and DC.
You and I say it all the time.
How come this group, this cadre of academic elites who are black, haven't come together to have a summit? It's like, what's that book, Invisible Man? Is the black college president the biggest impediment to black progress? Really?
Oh, I would think that there are 9 brilliant men and women who are presidents of HBCUs, or the 14 or the 16 who are presidents of all the universities in the state, who recognize that they're not getting a quality student from Baltimore City. They go to these colleges, and the first thing, Donnie, they got to take is Intensive Education Development Program, IED. And what is that? That's so that they can get their math and English up to score.
Remedial.
And then what they do is they take, and we can go on and on this, but I just think that until you have, as Michael say, we got 2 elected positions coming up this year for citywide. Now a lot of us are going to Annapolis this year to press the people in Annapolis to add 4 more elected positions at the next city council race and city race. So what that would do would give us a staggering number: 2 during the state election, 4 during the city election. That would cover 6 people to be able to have elected on the school board. The 3 that between the governor and the mayor, they can fight and piss over all they want. But we need to make sure that it's about, because if you look at, like you said, look at that commissioner, but look at their background. If you look at their background, everybody comes from Johns Hopkins. Who is the biggest contractor of the city of Baltimore School of Education? Johns Hopkins. So there's some relationships being created. And now we only got 2 positions citywide, and yet Baltimore City's election committee hasn't even decided and told us even how to happen. If you want to fix
it for a minute, Mike.
Yes, sir.
What we have to acknowledge Norah for.
Absolutely.
Because unmute yourself, Norah. Quite often on this show, and I pull no punches. I will bust a cap in black or white, it don't matter. But I am a witness, Mr. Mike, that this lady is very much, she and her husband are very much committed to Sandtown, to this community, in the most unconditional, loving way. And
thank you, Donnie. I'm glad you
said no free passes. They earned it. Just like I ain't give what's his name, Alan Tibbles, no pass. You remember Alan Tibbles, Michael?
Yeah, Donnie, you sure didn't, cousin.
But I cried when he went home, because he was about it. He was about the work. He was genuine. I don't know about the others with that group, but that man was committed. And
what Norah does is such an important concept, because my daughter has it at her school. These community outreach folks, and I mean, you're courageous enough to move in Sandtown, so let me give you some backup on that. But the mere fact of the job that they do was something that even when I was in school, we would have. That's how I met Reverend Ray. Reverend Ray was assigned to Northwestern in 1971, and he was doing similar to what Sister Norah is doing.
I met
So,
Reverend Ray and Travis Winkie up at Lamel, and to this
there
day,
you go.
Willie Ray can get on my nerves until the end of time. He will interrupt you slow dancing in a club to give you a damn flyer.
Give you a flyer.
I will never take that away from Reverend Willie Ray and Travis Winkie for coming back to Lamel to talk to us students, not once, but on a regular basis. Travis Winkie, you know, pose.
Oh, yeah, Booty. I mean, I've been knowing Travis since we used to call him Booty. So we leave that one alone for now. But Norah,
anyone dance contest, they tell me.
On Kirby Scott's show, absolutely. Against Gregory Scroggins, but that's another conversation.
Xavier. That's Xavier.
Yeah, that's Xavier, my brother. So what Norah does,
history you won't find anywhere else,
but here. But Norah, it's important that she gets the support, she gets the help, she gets the backup that she gets. Now, I'm not a big fan of the way that they put these folks in. I think Norah should have been just hired because of what she knows, what she wants to do. And then when you have these outside contractors who are moving all of these bodies inside the school, sometimes, you know, we have to protect Norah so that Norah be able to do her job. And I think that you living on the block or in the area with Donnie, you have the biggest blocker, the guy that will make sure that you're covered. So I appreciate what you do because I know what you do.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. And it's awesome having like folks like Donnie, and I have some other, parents that are really invested in the community that, make my job so much easier and like help and just like help me with connecting with other organizations and help me make things better for our families here. So Mike, I'm just blessed to have this community around me here in Sandtown because we really do have a lot to offer.
Now, Mike, I run a business. I run a company. Well, it's not showing well. DM Global.
Yes.
Norah called me up to the school on a volunteer tip one day. And that conversation, that conversation didn't go all that well.
No, it's not good.
Because I just gotten off the phone with one of my mentors, David Miller, former Baltimore City educator, who often says, stop doing things for free. And I say that with respect to Baltimore City Public Schools because we know that they will pay consultants exorbitant amounts of money to come in and do the very same thing.
That's right.
Right. But they won't pay for anything, extracurricular or any for us to have, awesome guest speakers or any. The funds are not going to those type of things. So I do have to recruit volunteers for things like that. And I would have loved to get you paid.
Well, sometimes we have to do what Mike Haney knows what we do. Sometimes Donnie and I have to be our own recipe makers, and we have to give it to you. And then once we give you the recipe, you follow that recipe, then you'll be able to offset that and make sure that Donnie gets whatever he gets. Donnie is an expensive professional, but he's the best expensive professional that you can find. And his commitment to you and that school, whatever it is you can find. But I know, as David and I have had this conversation for years, we are well aware of what the city school system will pay, but I know what they won't pay. And they won't pay for any people like Donnie and myself, and unless we come in there a certain way, which we're not going to do. I mean, half time I barely shave, as you can see. So we just want to make sure that whatever you need on the street level, Donnie can at least supply you with that. And whatever recipe you need to put together to make a fundraising situation, Donnie will share my number with you and I'll help, because Donnie is somebody that we got to keep up, active, and at least at the point that he's eating, because we all like to eat.
Absolutely. Yes. Love that. Thank you, Michael. And yeah, we'll definitely connect. And you wrote down my email address?
Yes, I did. I got it right there. I'm going to send you something.
Here too. Thank you so much for having me, Donnie. I really appreciate it. It was great meeting you, Michael. But yeah, I got to get back to some business here at the school. And yeah, I appreciate what you both are doing. So thank you so much.
All right. Peace out.
Thank you for joining us. Hold tight, Mike. I got a question.
I ain't got nowhere, Donnie, because you always say I ain't got nothing to do. But go ahead, Donnie.
So what's up with this election, man? What
What
was y'all
election?
doing? What was y'all doing a couple Saturdays ago?
We had a Black Men Honors. Our keynote speaker was Westmore, who we had actually booked before we knew he was running. He was actually booked in the beginning of the pandemic, and then we canceled this event, and he kept his promise. And then, of course, now he's a gubernatorial candidate, and he spoke, and we gave away 21 awards for 2021. And next year we'll be setting up our 22nd. That was our 90th consecutive breakfast. This coming up, we have Coates, W. Paul Coates, who will be speaking on the anniversary of, it's actually December the 4th at the restaurant on Lexington Street, exactly about the assassination date of Mark Clark and, I'm having a senior moment, help me, Donnie, the other Panther in Chicago, who they did the movie after just recently. Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. He's going to speak about that during our breakfast. So we're really excited about the 91st. And we've been doing this from 2014, and a lot of good things have come out of it. We are not an organization. We're just a group of men. And so the event that we did a Saturday ago was, as far as I'm concerned, was very nice, because when does Mr. Lenny get award? You know, when do
tell folks who Mr. Lenny is?
Mr. Lenny is the barber's barber. I mean, Mr. Lenny been cutting hair and holding shop in his barber shop since the late 40s, early 50s. Lenny was cutting not only Earl of Pearl Monroe hair, he was also cutting the Brown Bomber, Joe Lewis's hair. He's also a hell of a golfer, even at his age still. He still can hit him straight down the middle.
You know what I like about Mr. Lenny?
What's that?
He'll cuss you out quicker than a Baltimore speed camera.
Walking in the door. And
I like church people that cuss too.
Well, yeah. I'll stop, Dottie. But I mean, that's what we had. And Michael Howell at the Second Bite Computers. I mean, one of the first Black men that I knew that were repaying.
Right. Mr. Howie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. He did get recognized.
Right.
Michael Howie. He went to Poly, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, he went to City.
I thought he told me. I don't have his bio in front of me.
Oh, I know. He's my
well, you know, you're a big Poly Dunbar agitator as it is, so I got to keep up with who you talking about at the time, because you slide Dunbar, then you slide Poly, and I'm like, okay, let me back.
My children Hey, I love both of those schools.
I know you do. You show it and you give it up every time you have an opportunity. They should be blessed to have you as an alumni anyway.
But so is Northwestern. I mean, a lot of people don't know. It. You know, I didn't realize that how important Northwestern was as we began to move into different neighborhoods, because Black people couldn't always go to Northwestern, correct?
No, Northwestern actually was the first school built for integration in the city of Baltimore. It was built in 1966.
Now, you didn't say it was the first school to integrate. You said
first school that was built after Brown versus Board of Education, first high school. Second high school was Pikesville, but in the city was Northwestern, and then Northern came shortly. Yeah, and that's why you
had black and white.
Oh, it was 50-50 starting from 19. My brother graduated in 68. You know, he was in the first graduation class. Harold Dobson.
I heard that Northwestern had the finest women in town.
Well, let's put it like this. There were never a shortage of cars at 2:30 parked around the building, picking up some of the sisters and white girls out of the school, because we always felt that we was probably second to Western when cutie pies were available. No disrespect, sisters. I take it as I see it, you know. But no, you think of people like Michael Lee, Judge Michael Lee, the first orphan court Black judge, Northwestern. David Shapiro, a delegate, came right out of Northwestern shortly after high school. Franklin Lee, one of the biggest attorneys out there. Madeline Murphy, who ran the ACLU. Sheila Dixon, Joan Pratt, Verner Jones. That Frank Conway Jr. I mean, all of that came out of that building, and literally came out that the building within a 50-year period, not the long history of the Pollys and the Dunbars and the cities, the schools that over 100 or 90 or 70 years old. We were only 50 years old the year they closed us.
Mike, how did it feel to lose Northwestern?
It's like losing a family member, because it was all about property and it was all about race. And we fought for 7 years. I mean, we were able to keep it open for 7 years. And I do have to thank, of course, Michael Haney and India Artis and Franklin Lee.
Dr. Helena Hicks?
Not as much. No. I mean, but at the end of the day, the folks that did step up, we stepped up for 7 years and we were able to keep it open. And we have something in process now because cross country is there while they're redoing cross country. Now, you can't say that you're closing the school because of the condition of the school, but you bring 620 students in the building when they vacate the school. So they combine the two high schools.
So hold. What you say?
They said they were closing Northwestern because it wasn't about population. We were around 620 for a high school, which is really good for a comprehensive high school. They closed us, they said, because our condition of our building would have cost, I think it was around, Michael knows this more than I do, I think it was around $80-something million. But you didn't close the school down. What you did is went to Cross Country Elementary Middle, brought them up and put them into the building. And they've been in the building now for 2 going on 3 years while they're remodeling their building, and they haven't even started the building. They're going to
why couldn't they do this when it was Northwestern?
Because they didn't want 640 Black students coming through that community. Not that they were, because of race. Racism played a huge part in this decision. And then the lack of any type.
I thought this was a heavily Jewish community.
Jewish, Hispanic, and Black. It is. Now
I'm trying to understand where race comes in, because Judaism is not a race, it's a religion.
Okay, well, let's put it like this. And that's a good point. And thank you, Donnie, for correcting me. Let's say it like this. No one wanted 640 African-American students to come to that community, rather they were Black or white. Because
we saw that when they broke that little boy's arm up there, the Shamrim.
Well, I mean, they elected, well, they didn't matter because they elected one of the members of that organization to city council.
And then Kathy Pugh gave Shamrim a van.
Yeah, for over $85,000 van that's parked until they have events, and then they park it in certain places.
Now the Black group bundling them, they couldn't even get a Uber ride.
Well, you'd have to have that conversation with them, because even some of that group, well, let's put it like this. There were a lot of Black folk that could have did a lot of things for us that did nothing. And I mean, from elected officials, we had Nat Oates did the best.
Sheila fighting up there. I saw her.
Sheila was fighting with us. And we even, as we're moving towards the end of the show, we even got a call from Thornton, who was the superintendent at the time, who said to us 4 days before the election, if Sheila doesn't win this, they're going to close your school. That's exactly what he said. And of course, when Sheila,
they stole it. They stole the election from her
twice. So the first time against Kathy Pugh, when we lost that election, the call came in less than 2 weeks later that they weren't going to allow Northwestern to stay open.
They can all go to hell in my book. They can go to hell with gasoline drawers on and take their mothers with them.
Well, and then you look at your taxpayers.
They show no love for the people. No. They show no love for the people, and they're as vicious as the Shamrim that attacked that young boy up there at Northwestern, broke his arm.
Absolutely.
Which seemed like something out of a KKK movie.
And to go to the meetings to sit, and you got Ricky Spector, and you had Middleton, and to watch C.D. Witherspoon come in and state his case, and they jumped all over C.D. Witherspoon like he was an alien. And I'm like,
and where was Middleton in all of this?
Huh?
Where was Middleton in all of this?
Well, she's a councilwoman that buffers alongside of the district.
Where does she stand?
I didn't see her at one meeting. I didn't see her fight for us.
Why do we keep voting for people who won't stand up for us?
Because
her husband is a big-time union man?
No, because we've been indoctrinated. Unfortunately, Donnie, the community after us has been indoctrinated that bad leadership is what it looks like in Baltimore.
Okay, well, what about that racetrack up there?
You got $300 million. I mean, I was fighting. I love George Mitchell. I've been knowing George Mitchell since we played Little League at Lucille Park. But George Mitchell and a lot of the people with George Mitchell were favoring the racetrack over trying to favor a high school. I mean, you're going to put $600 to $300 million into a racetrack for one race, but you don't have a high school in your entire community. We're the only community that doesn't have a high school in the city of Baltimore.
You know, parents got to show up. Parents show up for happy hours. Parents show up on Instagram, but we don't show up for these PTA meetings.
And you know, that a lot of that has to do with leadership.
I came up there to Northwestern. I live all the way down here in Sandtown.
Oh, I know you have.
I'm looking for the people in Northwest Baltimore. Where you at?
And now what they've done is they have all of the schools that are elementary, middle, and we try to figure out, we're tracing where these children are going. And so if you're not going to Poly, or Weston, you're going to Forest Park or Douglas, unless you go to Carver or Merrill or something like that. You don't get a whole lot of movement because Mount Washington Elementary School is where all of the political people that got children put their children in. Stephanie Rawlins Blake's children graduated from there, even though she lived past 4 different elementary schools. And our current state's attorneys, our kids go there.
What school?
Mount Washington Elementary School. Now, people choose to put their kids where they want. But that's where you end up. Because for me, if I was an elected official and my kid went to the school in the neighborhood, that would have to be the best school in the neighborhood.
We don't have servant leaders anymore.
Sir. No, sir. You don't.
Robert Johnson, we love and respect you.
I love you more, though, Donnie.
Anything you want to add before we close?
I just appreciate turning on at 10 o'clock when I can catch you, when I don't have something to do, as you say, and when I can catch you. And I appreciate you and Michael Haney and the network that you put together. And hopefully I'll be joining it soon.
One last question. Did we ever give you a Black Wall Street Award?
I ain't never got an award from nobody in the city of Baltimore but Morgan University.
Can we recognize you at our Black Wall Street reunion on December the 9th?
It's going to be at Darker Than Blue, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be down there because I want to see the new restaurant too.
We'll recognize you on that day with a Lifetime Achievement Award. You'll be in the company of the likes of Tony Draper. We're going to recognize the publisher of the Afro newspaper and Charles Robinson.
My classmate. Charles Robinson and I graduated together at Northwestern. Charles was the student government president, and I was the senior class president.
He was?
He was the student government president, and I was the senior class president.
I have something to hold over his head now.
All right, I'll send you my bio, and thank you, Donnie, for asking me to join in.
Thank you, big brother.
Peace,
Donnie Glover will be back tonight at 7 p.m. for the Donnie Glover Show. We'll be talking about Black restaurants here in the city of Baltimore. Thank you again, Mr. Johnson. We love and respect you. Good morning, world.